Why would a car company sabotage its own creations? Sounds ridiculous, right? But trust me, these manufacturers pulled some shady moves to cripple their own cars. From power cuts to straight up deleting vehicles from existence, these stories are wilder than a plot twist in a bad soap opera. Buckle up, this one's a ride. 1. Alright, let's talk about Porsche's obsession with protecting their precious 911. Enter the 944 Turbo, a car that had everything it needed to humiliate its older sibling. It had 250 horsepower, could hit 0 to 60 miles an hour in 5.6 seconds, and handled like an absolute dream. It was lighter, better balanced, and honestly, it was shaping up to be a serious 911 killer. But Porsche, they weren't about to let that happen. See, the 944 Turbo had the potential to push over 280 horsepower, just a little tuning and bam, it could eat the 911 Turbo for breakfast. But Porsche wasn't about to let their cheaper car outshine their golden child. So what did they do? They nerfed it. Yep, Porsche messed with the Turbo's wastegate, limiting its boost so it wouldn't accidentally dethrone the 911. They intentionally made the 944 Turbo weaker just to keep the 911 on top. And here's the kicker, fixing it was ridiculously easy. Just swap the wastegate with the 911s and boom, suddenly you got a budget-friendly Porsche that can embarrass the big boys. But no, Porsche had to play favorites and keep the 911 as the untouchable king, even if it meant sabotaging their own lineup. Classic Porsche. Protect the legacy even if it makes no sense. 2. The Pontiac Fiero had the potential to be America's answer to Ferrari. A mid-engine affordable sports car? That's the dream. But instead of greatness, the Fiero became that one guy who peaked in high school and then disappeared. Why? Because General Motors sabotaged it on purpose. See, the Fiero could have been a game changer. It had the looks, the mid-engine layout, and the hype. But GM, they were terrified it might steal the Corvette's spotlight, so instead of giving it a proper engine, they stuffed it with a sad little 96 horsepower four-cylinder. That's less power than a minivan. A mid-engine sports car that couldn't outrun soccer moms? Brilliant move, GM. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it caught on fire. Yup, early Fieros had this oiling issue that turned them into rolling bonfires. Nothing screamed daily driver like the constant risk of spontaneous combustion. Pontiac tried to fix things later. They gave it a slightly better engine and improved the design, but by then nobody cared. Meanwhile, Toyota dropped the MR2, a mid-engine sports car that was faster, safer, and significantly less flammable. If GM had just let the Fiero breathe, we could have had an American MR2 legend. Instead, we got a cautionary tale on corporate self-sabotage. 3. Next up, the Chevrolet Corvair, aka the car so unsafe it accidentally invented modern safety laws. GM thought it was a brilliant idea to slap the engine in the rear without a stabilizing rear suspension. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, just a car that loved to spin out, lose control, and flip over at the worst possible moments. It was like driving a mechanical prank that constantly tried to kill you. Then came Ralph Nader, a lawyer with a grudge against bad engineering. He wrote Unsafe at Any Speed, a book that was dedicated to exposing Corvair's death trap tendencies. Instead of, fixing the car, GM decided the best move was to spy on Nader, send him creepy anonymous threats, and basically act like a comic book villain. Because nothing says, we're totally innocent, like stalking the guy who called out your car-shaped hazard. Unsurprisingly, this did not work out well for GM. The Corvair's reputation got torched, sales tanked, and Chevy had no choice but to kill it off. But here's the twist. This whole disaster forced the government to start caring about car safety. So thanks, GM, you played yourself, but at least you accidentally made driving safer for everyone else. 4. Oh, you knew this was coming. The Ford Pinto, a car so poorly designed that rear-ending it basically turned it into a fireworks show. Seriously, if you so much as sneezed on the back bumper, there was a non-zero chance of spontaneous combustion. And here's the real kicker. Ford knew their fuel tank placement was a problem. They crunched the numbers, realized it would cost about $11 per car to fix, and then did the most cartoonishly evil thing possible. Instead of, preventing people from getting roasted alive, they decided it would be cheaper to just settle the lawsuits, because apparently human lives were just another line item on a budget sheet. When this got out, absolute PR catastrophe. Ford's reputation imploded, lawsuits piled up, and they were forced to recall the whole flaming disaster. The Pinto instantly became the poster child for corporate greed and bad decision-making. If there were an award for worst cost-cutting decision in automotive history, the Pinto would win it. And then, of course, immediately explode. Hey, we're just halfway, and there's more to come. Before that, though, we'd like to ask a quick favor. If you're enjoying the video, please hit the subscribe button, as your support goes a long way to helping us bring you more content. Thank you. 5. The BMW 1M Coupe was never supposed to exist. BMW had zero plans to make an M version of the 1 Series, but while the execs were off sipping champagne and approving more luxury SUVs, a group of rogue engineers had other ideas. They basically pulled a Fast and Furious style "we're doing this anyway" move and built it behind the scenes. And what did they do? They raided the M3's parts bin like it was Black Friday. Suspension, M3. Brakes, M3. Limited slip diff? Oh yeah, straight from the M3. They slapped it all together and boom, a budget M3 killer was born. This thing was light, sharp, and an absolute menace on the road. But BMW wasn't about to let some accidental legend upstage their precious M3, so instead of blessing it with M3's glorious 420 horsepower V8, they gave it a weaker turbo inline 6. Still fast, but not too fast, because heaven forbid it embarrasses Big Brother. Did it matter? Not one bit. Enthusiasts went crazy for this car, and it instantly became a cult classic. Even when BMW tries to sabotage themselves, they somehow accidentally create a legend. 6. In the 80s, the Audi 5000 wasn't just a car, it was a rolling scandal. Reports of unintended acceleration had people thinking these things had a mind of their own. Cars were taking off randomly, smashing into stuff, and worst of all, causing fatalities. It was like the movie Christine, but without the cool John Carpenter horror movie soundtrack. Then came the nail in the coffin, a brutal 60 minutes expose that showed an Audi 5000 magically accelerating all by itself with no one even touching the gas. Boom, instant public enemy number 1. Sales tanked. Dealerships were ghost towns, and Audi's US rep went down faster than a car with cut brakes. But here's the plot twist. Audi wasn't even the villain. Years later, investigators figured out that the whole thing was mostly driver error. Turns out the pedal placement in the Audi 5000 was slightly different from typical American cars. So instead of hitting the brake, people were accidentally flooring the gas. Yeah, kind of an important mix-up. So Audi got canceled over something that wasn't even their fault. Talk about brutal PR luck. One misstep in pedal design and boom, your entire brand gets dragged through the mud. By the time the truth came out, the damage was already done. Audi had to spend years climbing out of the hole. Lesson learned: never underestimate the power of bad press or a badly placed gas pedal. 7. Ah yes, Dieselgate. The time Volkswagen pulled the ultimate scam and got absolutely wrecked for it. VW spent years marketing their diesel cars as clean and eco-friendly, convincing everyone they were basically saving the planet. But behind the scenes, they had secretly installed cheat devices in their cars that faked emissions tests. Yeah, they literally programmed their cars to detect when they were being tested and then pretend to be clean. On the test stand, these cars passed with flying colors, like straight A students who totally didn't copy their homework. But on real roads, oh boy, they were actually spewing up to 40 times legal pollution limits. That's not just cheating, that's super villain levels of deception. Basically, Volkswagen was the Lance Armstrong of emissions, winning big by blatantly cheating, and the fallout? Massive. Billions in fines, countless lawsuits, arrests, and one of the biggest PR disasters in automotive history. Customers were furious because, shocker, people don't like being lied to about their so-called green cars. Who knew? Volkswagen went from the people's car to the people's lawsuit magnet overnight, and honestly, they earned it. 8. In the 90s, General Motors built the EV1, an all-electric car that wasn't just good, it was great. People loved it. It was smooth, futuristic, and way ahead of its time. So what did GM do? Naturally, they killed it, because why keep a groundbreaking, game-changing car when you can just crush it instead, literally? GM didn't just discontinue the EV1, they went full supervillain and rounded up every single one, sending them to the scrapyard like they were covering up a crime. It was like the cars never even existed. Why? Because GM was making too much money off gas-powered cars, and an EV revolution would have ruined their whole business model. They basically said, yeah, no thanks, the future isn't for us. Fast forward a few years and Tesla comes along, proving electric cars can be cool, fast, and insanely profitable. Meanwhile, GM was left standing in the dust, looking real dumb for literally destroying their own future. If they played their cards right, they could have been the Tesla of today, but no, they chose to crush history instead. Brilliant move, guys. And there you have it. 8 times car companies sabotaged their own creations. Which one blew your mind the most? Got another story of a car that got held back on purpose? Drop it in the comments, because in the world of cars, the truth is always wilder than fiction.